Many years making excuses not to go to Laos, she finally convinced me, but only if she agrees on three of my requests. One, you see, my mother passed away during the war, and I was too young at the time to grasp on what death was. I feel as this was the best way to respectfully say my goodbyes and get closure. But I know finding her resting place would be a challenge. Folks that already made the trip confirmed that the ruins of an old cinema theater exist. If I could locate that, I may be able to find my way back to where our house used to stand. I remember vividly because my dad and I would go pick up my brothers and sister from school. We'd always drive past it. I just need to find that theater. And third of all, this had to be around the late 40s when my grandpa took a leap of faith and relocated his family from Vietnam to Laos, leaving behind his brothers and sister. That was the last time he'd seen or heard of them again. However, not too long ago, my dad and uncle got word that their surviving cousins are well and still living in North Vietnam. Dad would tell us to make an effort to meet our long-lost family one day, so Pon Savan has to be a must for this trip to consider an accomplishment. She agrees. I was nervous about the flight, but now that it's actually happened, I found myself more excited than worrying about it. To be honest, I didn't know if it was the melatonin kicking in or just my regular sleep pattern, but we fell asleep for a good 6 or 7 hours, felt refreshed, and to our surprise, only 2 more hours to Taipei, Taiwan. From there, it would be just another 3 hours to Bangkok, Thailand. Had a little delay here in Taipei, so we decided to try some Taiwanese cuisine. Maybe I ordered the wrong dish because the picture on the menu looks delicious, but the taste wasn't as I thought it would be. As we were boarding the plane in Thailand over to Laos, my anxiety kicked in. I started to get butterflies in my stomach. It's so close that I can actually feel it. I could even smell it. We arranged one of my cousins to pick us up from the airport. I was so excited to finally put a name to his face. I wasn't sure what to say or how to act, trying to keep my composure as we walked out the waiting area, only to find no one was there. We hung around for a good hour till he finally showed up, and right off the bat I knew it was him. You felt that closeness as if we knew each other our whole lives. I apologize, we were too excited that we forgot to film the reunion. When we arrived at his house, he took me to the back where a couple of the brothers built their houses. Meeting them was very emotional and full of curiosity. They asked about every single brother in America, as I did the same with the brothers here in Laos. We talked, laughed, cried for several hours. Later that afternoon, Chakong took us around to tour the town. It was awesome. The market was crowded. It had a different vibe than what we're used to seeing in the US. Shortly after the market, they took us out to the Plain of Jars, Site 1. This was a strategic location during the Vietnam War, serving as a key area for military operations and one of the most heavily bombed locations. The objective was to cut off the North Vietnamese forces and from moving supplies along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It is believed that the U.S. dropped around 4 billion pounds of bomb around the area. Walking up the hill, I had chills throughout my whole body. At this very moment, I instantly regret to not paying attention to my dad. When I was younger, he used to tell me of this place. He spoke of the trenches and that were dug out to hide from shellings. Hearing the bombs that was dropped around him and the soldiers, he told me that this was a place where a piece of fragment pierced into his wrist. Sorry, Dad, for not taking you serious. I was such a big man at 14 that I didn't want to hear about your dumb war story. Jeez, what I would give to hear you tell me that story one more time. Hearing children playing in the schoolyard from our hotel room sounds so refreshing, just watching them mingle in the playground. You have to understand that the school system here is not free. These parents with barely any income needs to scrape up what they have just to pay for their kids' education. Most can't even afford schooling. Crossing through town, Jocko and his wife pointed out some important sites and dates that involved my grandparents' migration into Laos. Instantly from a poor paved road in town, quickly turned into a dirt-filled pitted potholes. It remained this way throughout the whole trip. We tried to make the best of it by joking, laughing, and making it entertaining, but most importantly, getting to know my brother on a personal level was worth the trip. We would stop at certain locations along the way to enjoy the sceneries and mainly to give ourselves a break from the bumpy ride. The saying, "Picture doesn't hold its justice, holds fact." I may be biased because it's my native land, but the limestone mountains that towers around little villages, livestock roaming free, and everyday people just living their life with what they have. As we made a turn around a curved road, we stumbled across a younger couple, physically fighting in the middle of the street. I didn't get the footage, but I did get the tail end of it. As we drove closer, we noticed this guy who was following her up these mountainous road was fully armed. Jacon had joked about the situation, but in my heart, I was terrified for the girl. Even hours later, I was still thinking about her and hope she'll be okay. Approaching noon, Jacon pulled over the side of the road to prepare lunch. He and his wife woke up extra early this morning to kill some chicken and prepare us for some old school Hmong lunch. We stood there and watched him play Tarzan while his wife prepped the chicken. Hmong people believe that when it ventures out to an unknown place, they call upon the spirits and ancestors to help watch over them and guide them until they're back home safely. They would give food a way of showing gratitude for their blessings and seeking their favor. Call it what you will, but this was one of the best meals I had since arriving in Laos. After the boost of energy, we continue on. This trip was roughly a little over 4 hours, but only because of the poor road condition. Let's say if these roads were halfway decent, I can't see it taking us more than an hour, especially when Google Maps indicated that It's only 55 miles from Ponsavant to Longyen. I do want to emphasize for the folks that's planning this trip, do not make this trip during May through October. That's the raining season, and these roads will be muddy and a landslide waiting to happen. We approached my uncle Zongqua's old stomping ground. This village is called Santong. This is where my uncle went to school and played soccer. He would later become known as one of the greatest Mongolis to have ever played. The legend still stands to this day. As we got closer, Jagon stopped on the side of the mountain for a scenic viewpoint looking into Longyen. I was able to quickly identify the two little short mountains that was used to hide ammunition. I was filled with anxiety and couldn't compose myself. I'm right around the corner, Mama. I'll see you in a bit. Driving through the entrance of Laos, I noticed how this village seems to be thriving and alive again. All I've ever read and heard was that after the war, Longyen was abandoned and everyone relocated. Nowadays, you see people building new homes, kids playing. The stores are all around the runway. We stopped at the airstrip and I rushed out to see if there was any familiar landmarks, but nothing came to mind. As I was walking south on the runway, I do remember somewhere halfway on the strip, there was a road that veered to the right towards our house. If I could just spot that old theater, I think I'll be able to locate our old house. And there it is, the old cinema theater. There used to be a dirt road that ran between our house and the theater. So, if my memory serves me well, our house would have stood right around here. There used to be big rocks under our house to elevate it and for drainage purpose. They're all gone, but to my surprise, the land foundation after the rocks were removed still shows. I still could make out the landform of where our house used to stand. Right now I'm standing on the same exact place where my mother was putting my pants on. I wanted to go take pictures with my brother and sister. As you can see, I was quite emotional. This was 50 years ago. Jacon suggested to take the truck to get around, but I had other plans. I wanted to enjoy the moment. I wanted to soak it all in. My wife and I had a need to walk around the strip for a bit. It's just so unreal. Brother Chakong picked us up towards the end of the driveway. I think the time has come for me to go find my mom. I was very young at the time, so I wasn't sure how to get there. But with the help of family members at home, I felt confident I would be able to find it. You see, my dad and I used to bring food and Jaws paper out to her frequently, so I had an idea of the surrounding, such as how close she was from the road to the drop off just to the right of her resting place and the towering mountains surrounding her. Oh boy, not as I remember at all. I recall the land was much flatter. I couldn't find any clues to pick up from. We went around several areas until Brother Chacon spotted two grave mounds that was noticeable located on the top of the hill. I recall my brother Jalu telling me that if you're ever unsure, further up the hill you'll see a big rock the size of a coffee table. That's where two Mohan family was buried. So I went up there to check it out. Lord and behold, I saw that big rock he was talking about. Next to it was the two grave mounds. My hair stood up from the back of my neck. As I was walking back down the path, to my surprise, just to the left, I saw the drop-off that I envisioned in my head since a child. I must have overlooked it earlier because as a child, it looks a lot deeper, but now as an adult, the depth was just only a couple feet. This tells me that my mother would have been married right around here, or at least very close to the vicinity. I was too emotional to speak, so I had to sit there and compose myself for a bit. I introduced my mom to my wife. I told her about all her grandchildren. I told her that Dad had passed, and we sent him back home where they could reunite. I told her that everyone is doing well and how much we all misses her. I've been waiting my whole life for this. Now that I had the chance to say goodbye, I felt relieved mentally. I felt like if my mom can finally rest in peace, knowing that her children are doing well. As we were leaving, I turned back around and told my mom, who knows if this will be the last time I'll come here again. But whether it's in a dream or even a shadow, Mom, we'll always be together. Goodbye for now, Mama. After a long day, we were getting hungry, and Chacon knew exactly what I needed: pho. We arrived in a town called Montya, roughly around 4 p.m. I must admit, it was a little more modern and cleaner for a town in Laos. After dinner, we drove around checking out the town. It was nice to see. Halfway home, before it got dark, Chacon asked if I was interested to make one last stop to visit another brother named Zongma, who lives along the way home. He is my dad's first cousin, Lotongsa's son. Well, heck yeah, I would. You can tell by the camera's fuzzy footage that it was getting dark when we arrived. As we were making our haul up the steep hill, we stumbled across an auntie. She's probably the youngest sister-in-law from my dad's generation, working with me here. So she's Grandpa's youngest brother, Yaozia's youngest son, Zitongzhong's wife. Got it? Well, they settled in this village mainly to harvest potato. Chinese buy these by the pounds to make medicines. As we continue up the hill, you could see all the teenagers playing kato after a long day in the field. This is the short downtime to enjoy life, then right back to the field in the morning. What a life, eh? Brother and Zoma live on top of the steep hill. It must suck to have climb up here every day, especially if they need to haul stuff up here. But on the bright side, the view looking over the whole village was breathtaking. Unfortunately, he was not home and was still out in the fields, so I didn't get a chance to see him. But I did meet his sons and daughter-in-laws. It was a good, short, and really welcome stay. With just an hour away from Ponsama, Jacqueline made an announcement. He felt that it wouldn't feel right to let us come this far without having a little ceremony. I told him that's too much work and such a short notice, and his thoughts alone made us grateful enough. But he insisted and told me that while we were out today, several brothers from far away were making their way at home, anxiously waiting to see me. He said the reasoning was as if I was the calling to pave the way for the brothers in America to reunite with the Laos brothers. My heart was filled with love and agreed to this ceremony. The next day, Brother Jacqueline took me to see one of the very few remaining aunts left here. She didn't recognize me at first, but, well, you watch the video.
Có bố bố à?
She was so surprised. She thought she'd never see me again. Today was the big day. Not all the brothers could make it because of daily duties and transportation situations. However, to my surprise, for such a short notice, a lot of them did make it. They welcomed me. It was such a surprise and such a fun day. We laughed, cried, drank beer in Laos all night. Just like life, everything must come to an end. We all knew that it was time for us to go. As I was saying my goodbyes, I noticed they all jumped in the bed of the truck. Surprisingly, they all wanted to tag along to the airport, even in La Teva. When we got there, some more brothers showed up. So much love. How was saying goodbye such a hard thing to do for folks that never seen each other before, who never grew up together? Well, it's because blood is thicker than water. Just like the first day, one look and I knew these were my people. The vibe, the way they talk, their personality. It's just like my brothers at home. It's like we live with each other our whole lives. I am forever grateful for this moment and will treasure this memory for the rest of my life. I'll see you again, Laos. That I promise you.